The hype and anticipation for the Nintendo Switch 2 has reached a boiling point as we have new rumors / information on what that elusive C button can do for the Nintendo Switch 2. And if it's what this person is explaining when it comes to this rumor, that is going to be a massive step for game applications and huge extra possibilities for the Nintendo Switch 2 that wasn't possible on the Nintendo Switch 1, but was a very interesting feature on previous Nintendo systems. So the latest rumor about this C button comes from Xtas. He mentioned earlier this year that Forza Horizon 5 was coming to the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, according to Xtas, his sources are saying that the C button can be used to connect the Nintendo Switch 1 to the Nintendo Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 1 can then be used as a controller or as a screen to play Nintendo Switch 2 games. Now, of course, this is a rumor. This is not confirmed from Nintendo themselves, but that would make a lot of sense. C standing for Connect. Of course, the Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2. Switch 2 is backwards compatible with the Nintendo Switch 1. So everything that they've designed about the Nintendo Switch 2, they have thought about and they have integrated Nintendo Switch 1 software, features, certain things, obviously form factor, building of the system was built off of that. So it's very possible at this point that the Nintendo Switch 1 can or will be used as a controller to connect. That seems like something that sounds like it's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be 100% what Mr. Xtas is saying here at this point, but think about the possibilities if they do decide to do this. I was thinking about it and I'm like, wow, there could be a number of things, and this design kind of comes full circle as the Wii U system itself was derived from what they did with the Nintendo DS, and the Nintendo Switch was derived from what they did from the Wii U, and of course many other little things when it comes to the DNA of Nintendo's past systems. But this is very interesting. So imagine something like having an extra map or something like that in Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. On the Wii U gamepad, you had that, but on the Nintendo Switch version, they had to obviously make it a single screen game because they don't have that extra screen. But if there is a Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which it looks like there are some things in there, like the hidden 60 frames per second mode that's on the game for the Switch and could be unlocked with the Nintendo Switch 2, they can add in features like that with this connect button overall. So that would be very interesting. Or think about it in this type of way. You can have a game like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube. That was a title that used multiple Game Boy Advance screens so people can have their own screen while one person can use the TV. If you have this Nintendo Switch Connect, you can have essentially somebody else with their own screen in addition to connecting other controllers for local co-op that's a bit more dynamic. Or even having a game like the Legend of Zelda Four Swords Adventure, where that also used the GBAs and having different screens and all of that. That type of application could be built in directly with that huge install base of the Nintendo Switch 1 and people's anticipation and hype for Nintendo Switch 2. Certain games could really take advantage if this actually does turn out to be true with this Connect feature from Switch 1 to Switch 2 with an extra screen as an optional feature for the system. There are a number of applications this could be used for. Now, this is all hypothetically speaking, of course, but if Nintendo did decide to do this, I don't think a ton of developers are going to start programming all these dual screen type of games and extra stuff. We know that a lot of developers don't like doing stuff like that, just going based off of the Wii U. A lot of them did not like having to program different stuff into it, but I do think that based on the game and developers that can use certain things, that could be really interesting or fun, or even just give people, when it comes to local multiplayer, their own screen to play games. Stuff like Animal Crossing, being able to be further away on the screen, or each character can have their own section and not have to share the screen at all. Or even like a 2D Mario game where you don't have to share the screen as well. Someone can be in any part of the level with their own screen while the other person has their screen and they can play the game there. There are a number of things where this could be used to be pretty cool overall, and I can't wait to see what Nintendo has in store for us with the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that's going to be coming up right here on the channel. And speaking of that, you're going to want to make sure that you subscribe to PlayerEssence, this channel, because we're going to be covering that in depth overall with a live stream and more. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and click that notification bell to get my vids as soon as they drop. Now let's go ahead and jump into the next topic here, and that's an update on the Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition sales situation. We went over the sales when it comes to the UK and how it was number 2 on the charts, but now we have updates when it comes to the US eShop charts, in addition to the Japanese physical numbered sales. So Xenoblade Chronicles X is off to an interesting start, to say the least, but I do feel that it's going to be significantly higher than what we saw with the Wii U based on some of the preliminary data. Now we have the Famitsu sales in Japan from March 17, 2025 to March 23rd, 2025, and Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition has opened up at 74,689 copies sold, retail copies, so that makes it the #1 game for the past week, while the Nintendo Switch system itself sold 30,000 plus units as well. Now that was good enough for #1 on the chart, so that's awesome that it was #1. It's good to see that. It actually outsold every version of Atelier Yumiya combined, so that's interesting because Atelier Yumiya is a brand new game overall that's highly rated and nice and everything like that, and Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition actually outsold it physical in Japan. But the one thing about this is that compared to the Wii U version of the game, physical wise, it was actually a bit lower, which that sold over 80,000 units on the Wii U back in 2015 when it launched. Now the Nintendo Switch does have a lot higher digital uptake when it comes down to it. So while yeah, #1 on the charts is okay, it still did not beat out physical sales wise over what we saw from the Wii U version of the game. Now this game definitely would be a portable type of game. I think that there's a lot of people that are probably going to enjoy this type of title anywhere that you want, and of course having that access digitally to be able to have it on multiple systems if you have it, and just be able to boot it up anytime and not have to worry about having the cartridge. It's that type of game. So I do see that this title probably has a much higher digital consumption rate than a lot of other Xeno games, and probably way more than the Wii U version of the game, because back then in the Wii U days, yeah, there was digital and people were downloading, but nowhere near the amount that people are downloading digital games on the Nintendo Switch. Plus with the general install base difference, I would expect that Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition did a good amount better than what it was on the Wii U, but physical wise, it was below it. And I do want to get into one more point when it comes to the sales of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. It's still #1 on the eShop charts. We saw that the game shot up to the top of the US eShop charts right around the launch of it, and it still stayed there throughout the launch into the next week. So that's definitely a good thing. You want to see more and more people playing the game, and I think that since this game is a standalone title from the other Xenoblade games, and it does have a very different vibe, militaristic type of building humanity's future, it's a different vibe and a different style of Xenoblade game. Word of mouth is going to be massive for this game, especially considering the tech analysis that just came out from Digital Foundry, some of the things that are said there, what people are showing with the mechs and all of that. I think that that's going to help this game have a long life. I think it's going to be able to sell a bit longer than what we saw with other Xenoblade games that are more story-centric and focused. I think that this game, once again, not that it's going to outsell Xenoblade 2 or Xenoblade 3 or anything like that, but I do think that it might stay in the sales charts in terms of long-term sales, longer than what we saw with some of the other Xenoblade games. And I think above what we saw with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which that game sold about 1.6 million, maybe it's a bit higher. Those sales numbers are outdated. So if this game was able to hit that number or above, I would say that that is definitely a positive thing. But based off of what we've seen so far from the sales numbers, it absolutely seems like it's going to do that. So far so good for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition sales. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. And this is very interesting. It's a brand new rumor stating that the Legend of Zelda movie is going to be part of a trilogy. So Production List, a film and television production tracking service offered by the Film and Television Industry Alliance, may have provided the first details about the upcoming movie for The Legend of Zelda. Shoutouts to Nintendo Everything for this one. The site claims that the filming will be done between November 2025 and April 2026 in New Zealand. It offers a synopsis as well, which mentions Link going on a journey to protect Hyrule from Ganon. Similar to the games, Ganon is seeking the Triforce, a live-action adaptation of the video game franchise. The Legend of Zelda follows Link, a young warrior destined to protect the magical kingdom of Hyrule from the forces of darkness. The land is under threat from Ganon, a ruthless warlord who seeks the Triforce, an ancient relic said to grant limitless power. To stop him, Link must embark on a perilous journey, battling monstrous creatures, exploring treacherous dungeons, and solving intricate puzzles to uncover sacred artifacts that can aid him in his quest. Now, in addition to this information, Daniel Richmond, who's had some credibility with movie leaks, claims that the production is, quote, progressing rapidly and casting should be completed by August. He further adds that, quote, a trilogy is planned with contracts for all the main roles in 3 films over a period of 6 years. Link, Zelda, Ganondorf, Impa, and Zelda's father have all apparently been cast thus far. So very interesting to see that, and it's interesting to see the dynamic on people talking about this. Some are steadfast saying that this should have been animated type of movie, while others say no, they want to see a gritty type of Lord of the Rings style look, so live action. And I'm kind of thinking more on that side. I mean, I do think that if they plan it to be a trilogy, they obviously maybe want to tap that Lord of the Rings base. I think that Nintendo's kind of thinking, hey, we can get a lot of those Lord of the Rings fans for a live action type of thing. So maybe that's the route they wanted to go with it, because that old style with a knight and a sword and armor and the princess, that stuff translates really well to live action over something like Mario, in my opinion. So let's see what happens. It is a rumor at this point, so take it like that. Now let's go ahead and move on to the final topic here, and that is the Legend of Heroes Trails Beyond the Horizon. We've got a confirmation that it's coming out this fall in the West, PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, and PC. So NIS America will be on the beat for this one once again. This is known as the Legend of Heroes Kai no Kiseki, Farewell O Zamora in Japan, and it's coming out, like I said, this fall in the West. The Legend of Heroes Trails Beyond the Horizon first launched for the PS5 and PlayStation 4 on September 26, 2024 in Japan and Asia, followed by a PC release via Steam on January 23rd, 2025 in Asia. Here is an overview of this game. Van Arkwright and members of the Arkwright Solutions are back, and this time, the future for the entire Zamurian continent is at stake. The people of Zamura await the launch of the humanity's first foray into space with bated breath. A sudden invitation from Marduk to cooperate in a high-tech training exercise sets Van, Ashen, Devalier Rain Swartzer, the father of Kevin Graham, on a collision course with the secrets at the very core of Zamura. Their paths may diverge, but the ultimate question remains the same: just what lies beyond the edge of the horizon? Now, it's interesting because so many of these games have came out, and I am totally behind. There's a bunch of new key features, like the gameplay's being evolved, new gameplay mechanics, shard commands and awakenings, time freezing, all sorts of cool stuff, dream teams, gathering allies from Calvard and beyond, and there's so much more. But I've fallen behind. These games come out at such a rapid pace, and they announced that they're going to have the first chapter in the whole series come out later this year. So I've just decided to stop playing all of them and just get to that first chapter, the Trails into the Sky first chapter. I just want to get into that and play from there. But no, this is really cool for people that are caught up. Obviously, it's great to have such a consistent flow of games to be able to get into, but these are long RPGs, story-bound ones, and I want to start from the beginning, and I'm definitely going to overall. But it's pretty cool, once again, to see that the Legend of Heroes is coming out. They're trying to do better on the localizations and get these games out to more people as fast as possible from the Japanese release. They're starting to shorten the time that it does take, because I remember there was a time where it was like a year plus or something like that. So the fact that they're actually shortening the length when it comes to the Legend of Heroes games, that's definitely a good thing to see. The game looks awesome. I played Trails Through Daybreak and I find the game to be very fun, so I'm looking forward to eventually getting back over to this series once I go back and beat the first game when it comes to chronologically and everything. So what do you guys think about all the different topics here, from the crazy feature that the Nintendo Switch 2 can have and the possibilities, to the sales of Xenoblade Chronicles X and more? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.